Well, good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever you are out there in the world. My name's Lundy Costanzo, CEO here at MSP Toolkit, and we're here trying to get vendors to, kind of align with partners and how you guys go to market. And I'm here with LastPass today. I've got Tony Haller, who's going to be presenting with me, Senior Strategic Partner Manager over at LastPass, and Rich Getch, running the sales team there. So Tony, want to say hey?
Yeah, hey guys, thanks for joining. Looking forward to talking through some of the stuff we've got planned for you guys today, and appreciate everybody taking a little time out of their day to join us.
Yep, Rich, say a little hello.
Yeah, Rich Getch, I'm the manager for the LastPass MSP team. So, really looking forward to, Tony presenting and Lynn talking about the importance of password management and really the opportunity for all of you out there. So looking forward to it and go from there.
Yep, so a couple of veterans here, guys. Actually, all three of us pretty much veterans. So you're going to get some feet on the street, real time, real life kind of experience here, and really looking forward to sharing it with you. Rich is going to actually be in the background answering questions in the Q&A box. So as they pop up, just type them in there, and then Tony's going to join us momentarily. So thanks, guys. I'm going to get rolling here. All right, so again, my name's Lundy Costanzo. You see my email there. If you want to connect, you can also reach out to me on LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, wherever you'd like, MSP Toolkit. And we're going to get started with 5 keys to protecting client assets and data with LastPass MSP. Some quick housekeeping. Hopefully all of you can hear us and you've selected your computer audio. We do have our question box, so again, feel free throughout to put some questions in there. Rich is going to be working in the background and helping to answer those. And if we can't answer them, we'll let you know and we'll get back to you on it. We are recording the webinar, and we will follow up with a link to the on-demand version as well as the presentation, and again, Q&A throughout. We're going to share some key insights. Of course, we talked about 5 key insights we're going to share today. And the first, we're going to just talk a little bit about the market opportunity for identity and access management. You're going to see IAM throughout the presentation. And really, there's a lot of motivation out there, not only for you, but for your clients to see what this market opportunity is all about. And it's a little strange at times when you talk about a market opportunity for something like this that could be so difficult on a business, but it is an opportunity for you to get in front of your clients and discuss identity and access management. So we'll talk about that market opportunity, then we'll work a little harder and go a little deeper with Tony. He'll start to give you opportunities on how to identify, he'll help you identify IAM opportunities in your client base. And one of the keys here is your clients. So it should be pretty simple to identify if there's an opportunity in your base. And then Tony's going to share some of the tools you can use to drive awareness, targeted awareness, to those clients that you see an opportunity to put your identity and access management solution in place. And then I'll come back and talk about how to engage your clients in the conversation to kind of get in and close the deal and move on into executing the solution delivery of LastPass, MFA, SSO, whatever you're putting into your client, and what that revenue stream might look like for you. And I'll leave you with some next steps. We're going to have a few polling questions throughout. And in fact, before we get started, we just wanted to get a lay of the land here and understand who is out there. So our first polling question, just to kind of get a lay of the land, is, are you already a LastPass MSP partner? And we like to know if you're a partner for more than 6 months, less than 6 months, if you're not a partner, but you're looking to learn more, or if you're not a partner, you're working with another competitor, maybe you're just here to learn a little bit about the opportunity out there for identity and access management, and we're fine with that. So, why don't we look to answer these questions? I always love to get to at least a 60% turnout. We've got a bunch of folks out today, actually a really fantastic turnout for the webinar. So, I think the key for us is if you're less than 6 months, we want to take a look at where you are in your journey. Are you starting to get out there selling into your client base? And that's really what this session's about. The key here is you want to expand your service catalog, and then as you expand, you want to get in your client base and expand your wallet share. And that's pretty much how I like to, here at MS Toolkit, take every solution get it in your client base. So are you a partner? We're at 60, 70%. Actually, so I'm going to close the poll. And what we've got here is share it back with you all. But we've got 33% of you are partners more than 6 months, 7% no, and we've got a bunch looking to learn more. So pretty awesome turnout, and really appreciate everybody replying to that. So let's get into the market opportunity for identity and access management solutions. And I say inform your clients because I do think this is a tremendous opportunity to take what's out there in the news and really use it to help your clients understand the need for identity and access management, for password management, MFA, single sign-on. Everybody's got to remember this Colonial Pipeline ransomware attack. Stealing a single password allowed hackers to not only infiltrate the system, but essentially shut down gas and oil for a large part of the United States. And it all came from stealing a single password. Over 9,000 Canada government accounts stolen. So as you're looking at some of these articles, which by the way, NDTV, really good site, kind of popped up all of the primary headlines. I'm just picking out two. And of course, we have the SolarWinds compromise, where someone actually compromised an office email and using that email to kind of gain access into that development environment. So every one of these breaches came from access and a password, an email. And once those emails are out on the dark web and being sold, everyone whose email's been stolen is really a target. So you've always got breach data and assets showing up in the news. Stay aware of it, and maybe when it happens again, you'll kind of get to that next level of client in your base. Maybe it'll help you win some new business. And here, according to Verizon's data breach investigation report of 2021, first off, 93% of the attacks are financially motivated. It's organized crime actors for the most part. And you can see here, 44% are compromised credentials. And that's really key, especially here for MSPs, that those breach patterns are the same for large and small organizations. So your clients, I know, primarily targeting MSPs or targeting SMBs, less than 100, less than 250 employees. The breach patterns are the same. 1 in 4 confirm a data disclosure in their business. So it's not just large business getting attacked. Now we know it's a lot of SMBs and in fact, even a lot of MSPs. So stay aware of all of these kind of opportunities in the news and share them with your clients. In here, Blissfully does a great study. I keep waiting for their latest one. This is from 2020. But what you could see here is the explosive growth of SaaS. I'm just going to try to highlight here. You have many different roles and relationships, but what you got here is every user having multiple connections to multiple SaaS apps and other applications. And you may think a company, let's look at an 11 to 50 employer, the sub 100 employees, there's an average of 584 app-to-person relationships in an SMB up to 100 employees. And basically what that means is there's a lot of passwords, a lot of emails being used, and passwords that perhaps are being shared across different applications. And it really lends itself an opportunity for those bad actors to kind of get into your business and hack away and grab some data, grab your client's data. So the proliferation of SaaS is really an opportunity out there. And with that proliferation of SaaS apps, you really can see people are starting to get it, right? You need to understand the risky behavior out there. And generally what people are saying is not what they're doing. They're concerned with compromised passwords. They know using the same password is risky, relying on their memory for passwords. And many don't even know if their info was compromised, and how would they unless you told them. And the bottom line is, with all the knowledge around passwords and breaches, 45% of folks aren't changing that password even after they hear of a breach. So it's real important to understand this behavior, because it's what leads you to combat that misbehavior, right? You need a password manager to create and fill and remember passwords across devices. And I got to tell you, ever since I deployed LastPass in my business, it's really been a lifesaver for me, because many times I would have to go look perhaps in my little password book that I keep, that I've kept for years, and now it's all protected online across all my apps and all my devices. And of course, having MFA is that next level of protection, and monitor that dark web for passwords that have been compromised. So, excuse me, for emails that are kind of out there being sold on the dark web. So while there are password misbehaviors, you can combat it. And really, that's all leading to this massive market opportunity for identity and access management solutions. $24.1 billion opportunity by 2025 per Markets and Markets Research. And 68% of business leaders feel their cybersecurity risks are increasing, and that comes from Accenture. With over 300 billion passwords in use today, there's really a lot of opportunity for bad actors to kind of grab one of those passwords and compromise the data and assets of your client. And of course, now we know regulatory bodies, government agencies, and in particular, cyber liability insurance companies are requiring you to deploy, or your clients to deploy, identity and access management solutions just to get coverage. And I know that's a big number, 24.1 billion. I always like to look at what my opportunity was in my client base, because that really is where your initial opportunity lies in this identity and access management market opportunity. How do you go into your client base and penetrate it deeply, high percentage, before you start using LastPass as a wedge to go out and get new business? And for you to kind of go out into your client base, just a reminder, I know we got a bunch of partners out there, but the LastPass MSP package comes with LastPass Business, with password management, single sign-on included, and families as a benefit. So your end users at your client can deploy up to 5 licenses inside their family, and that's a free benefit, which again, perhaps seeds your next set of clients as people in the home start using LastPass. And I'm always amazed how many folks tell me they use LastPass when they get an invite or we start talking about it. So you know your clients are out there using it. Maybe they're using the free version. You want to get in there and talk LastPass MSP and give them LastPass Business with free families as a benefit. And also the LastPass MSP package comes with advanced MFA, multi-factor authentication. And really, these are some of the key components you need in your identity and access management stack. As you're growing your business around cybersecurity, you really need to have LastPass MSP to help you seize the market opportunity for identity and access management. And what we've got here is some of the key benefits as a LastPass MSP partner. We do have a great partner program. I'll share some of the details later on. You get some free internal use licenses to secure your business, and you really have to get your own house in order before you start working on your clients. And by securing your business, you'll have your whole team using LastPass. You're going to reduce your service tickets, your time, effort, and generate incremental MRR as a result of deploying LastPass in your client base. And it's purpose-built. I mentioned that. Gives you that multi-tenancy view for a single pane of glass view into your client deployments. You can work on a consumption billing arrangement or commit yearly to Rich and team for some better pricing. We integrate with PSAs and Active Directory to simplify your deployment. You're going to get security notifications to keep you informed, open up your tickets and react to issues. LastPass is recognizing out there in your client base. And of course, free families as a benefit. And your clients reap a lot of benefits as well. Now, first off, it's a market leading solution. LastPass is the market leader. You get to secure your clients and reduce their risk, while I always like to say increasing their productivity, because they're going to be spending less time worrying about passwords, thinking about new passwords, and then having to go reset it and maybe even call your service desk. And of course, that'll lead to increased client satisfaction. And I think the key benefit here is instead of your clients or individuals using a free version or buying their own, you get to deploy it and manage it. And I think that's the new wrinkle here, and we hear it all the time. Most folks don't know that LastPass has an MSP partner program, and we're here to help you out. So with that, we're going to launch into some of our detailed content here. We're going to talk about keys to protecting client assets and data with LastPass IM. First, Tony's going to come on in and share how to identify opportunities in your client base. You know who they are, document it, build your matrix of what your clients have and don't have, understand if they have a breach, And then you want to drive targeted awareness to those clients that you know could use an identity and access management solution, and engage your clients in that conversation, and always leave with something. We'll kind of touch on that, whether you get enterprise password management in place, MFA or SSO, walk away with something to protect your clients, and then go deploy the solution, start billing your recurring revenue, and always continue to expand in your client base. So before we bring Tony in now, I do want to kind of grab one more, since we're talking about getting into your client base. Let's open up a poll, because I think we all want to understand what is our own opportunity. And we talk about getting in your client base. Maybe you're managing less than 300 users. Do the math. That gives you a wonderful incremental MRR, monthly recurring revenue opportunity, perhaps a small project. If you're 300 to 1,000, you're going to see a little bit of a jump in your incremental recurring revenue. And if you're up over 1,000, 3,000 users, you're going to see a real tremendous opportunity. I think once you start going in and adding LastPass MSP in your stack, you're going to continue to see your MRR take incremental steps as you kind of deploy this in your solution. We're going to give you some great tips on it. And again, I always like to get 60% or so in here, so let's grab a few more. Looks like we have some pretty decent opportunities out there with our attendees. Over 35% so far between 1,000 and 3,000 users, and in fact we've got 14% and more growing up over 3,000 users. So I probably need one more vote to get where I want to get to, so give me one more vote out there. I feel like an auctioneer, but I'll take it. It's for the greater good of the attendees here. Great. So let's close the poll and we'll kind of share what we see here, Tony. Looks like we've got a pretty decent opportunity out there for partners to drive incremental recurring revenue. So Tony, why don't we get rolling here? Looks like I lost your video. Is that possible?
How about now? Is it back up?
It seems to be gone, but not sure why. But
all I see is the quick poll. I don't see anything else.
Yeah, that's what I see too.
Yep. Well, let's get to it.
There we go.
There it is.
All right, Big Tony. So let's give it to Tony, and we will change presenter. We'll give it to Tony, and you're a way to go, Tony. So thanks for the poll responses. I think it's great to have interaction in here. So Tony, off you go.
All right, I appreciate it. So, when we think about the overall opportunities, like Len just went through, a great place to start is really looking at your existing base, right? When you think about your internal clients, a couple of different reasons why it makes sense to start there. One is the overall probability of selling and closing the deal goes up exponentially by working with those clients. The benefit there is that you've already got some pre-existing relationships, you know them, right? So it's almost like working with a safety net. So one thing to consider here too is that, when you start with those existing clients, it's a great time to kind of refine some of your SLAs, your internal processes, just getting to kind of figure out what good looks like as you roll through it. And it also helps you get a clearer picture of just what that ideal client looks like. And then once you've got that really honed and, you've got your processes figured out, your sales pitch, all that stuff, now you can start really thinking about targeting brand new clients. And so, once you've identified those target accounts, now let's talk a little bit about how it might make sense to categorize them to help really set you up for success. And so when you think about identifying the opportunities in that base of yours, it usually helps to segment it out into, basically what their adoption track record looks like. And so when I think about it, you usually have those early adopters. So those are the guys that, candidly, they're usually your guinea pig, right? They're the first ones that let you actually deploy a solution. They're the ones that you might start on. That is where it would make sense to start with a solution like LastPass. Once you've really got some momentum there and kind of figured that out, now you might want to think about picking up the mainstream group, which is kind of that middle chunk. And so one thing to consider here is that just because of what's going on out in the world today, so whether that's the current threat landscape, that's, cyber insurance requirements, really trying to, kind of level up, it's really, hedged out that mainstream chunk and really accelerated it. So they're actually, moving back towards that early adopter phase just because of what's going on and certain requirements out there. And then, last are, what those late adopters, right? So thinking about these guys, they're usually the guys that are, they're slow to change. They don't necessarily value technology. These are the ones that you got to put your sales hat on a little bit. So these might be the last grouping that you may want to focus in on. And so now we've got a little bit of a picture of, who and what you're going to target. Now let's talk a little bit about how to identify LastPass being a fit for them. And so to help that, we've created a couple different discovery questions to kind of help you through some of those conversations. And so I'm just going to pop them all up here on the screen so we can kind of go through them each here. So these are some discovery questions. So when you think about, the overall fit of LastPass, as you look through it, there's probably some clients that fit pretty much every scenario of yours. For me, when I think about, putting my old, my old MSP days, putting that hat back on for a minute and kind of thinking about some of my old clients, they were really big into spreadsheets, right? So they put every password in a spreadsheet, and then God forbid if they needed to share it, then it was usually either a post-it note or they would email it, write it down, just, very poor password management. And so, when you think about password management and just security breaches in general, about 85% of all breaches are somehow related to password management or poor hygiene, right? So if you can think about offering a single solution that can reduce that much risk, it's a really great conversation starter. And when you look at, the last one on the list around password management, and Len kind of hit this earlier about, calling in for those password resets of, it's Monday, it's been a long weekend, I forgot my password, they call into the help desk to get it reset. Now that end user is basically stuck, productivity goes down until they get back into the system. Conversely, your tier one guy has to go, basically field that call. And so if you think about it, if you can put something in there like password management with LastPass, it's going to reduce the downtime for the end user, but then also think about the time that you could potentially get back for your tier one guy on help desk, right? How could you reallocate that time to go do something more productive than resetting their Office 365 password? We've got a handful of other discovery questions I'm just going to pop up and kind of talk through all these too. So, a few kind of call outs here, right? So really, I mean, for me, insight into that hygiene of the client, really helps build on that security conversation. And to me, really helps make that MSP more of that trusted advisor kind of relationship. So you can really have business level kinds of conversations with your end clients, not, hey, we need to fix our printer, right? So really kind of leveling up that level of conversation. One other thing to consider here too is that, policies and compliance standards are really becoming more and more stringent. So especially if you're in some type of a regulated industries like healthcare, or maybe it's a DoD contractor, working in the government space, things like that. And, so that is going to require something like LastPass. And then, when you also think about it too, even if you're not in, a regulated industry like that, things like cyber insurance are really starting to drive that requirement for password management and MFA. And then as Len mentioned too, the interesting thing about just the proliferation of SaaS, right? I mean, if you really stop to think about how many connections each of your end clients have day in, day out, just that of, let alone when you think about, more from a shadow IT perspective, all the stuff you don't know about, right? It just opens up this huge, opportunity for risk. So using questions like this can really help determine if LastPass is a fit, and then really, what potential problem it could solve for. So another way to identify some of these opportunities is to look at specific verticals within your client base. And so what we've done here is we've put together basically the verticals that we really do well with as a whole for LastPass. And so by segmenting them out, it really helps you get a more granular focus on where you can attack and win first. And so the first one here is healthcare. And so naturally, healthcare organizations, they're one of the top targets for any kind of cybercrime, right? All the juicy information that they have, and are basically onus is on them to protect all this sensitive information. So they really need to ensure that all this sensitive data is kept secure and that passwords don't put them at risk. Legal. So, just the inherent nature, confidentiality and security that legal teams work in. They need to manage a ton of passwords too. So it does create somewhat of a perfect storm. So a good opportunity here. So if you have, law offices, that's a great one to attack. If you're going to look at segmenting your client base. Finance. So, a lot of finance, is mandated by certain compliance statutes, right? And that really demands these high standards when you look at it from cybersecurity standpoint. So Another good area. So it seems like, again, kind of putting my MSP hat back on. Oftentimes these guys had older environments, right? So they were using a lot of old antiquated, whether that's equipment or just overall architecture. And so they're probably old school, right? So they're probably using things like spreadsheets and things like that. So another great place to start with those conversations around LastPass. And then media. So this is one that's actually oftentimes is kind of overlooked. And so if you really think about it, some of these media companies that are managing, social media presence and things like that, typically there's only one login able to be used for these. So like Twitter or LinkedIn and things like that. So they've got this requirement to be able to, have one login, but share it across, a group of marketing individuals, right? So it opens up this inherent risk of, you've got this password that you need to share out across multiple guys. So how do you do that, right? So things like, being able to share vault to vault to ensure that, it really limits that exposure. It's a secure mechanism of getting that password out. That's another great area to work in. So, one thing to think about too here, if you start to get some traction in one of these specific verticals within your base, you may want to think about perhaps targeting this specific vertical for new clients, right? This may be a good, springboard into new client growth. So if you found this seam within, let's just say, legal, for example, and you've done really well, you've kind of perfected the craft a little bit. This may be a good opportunity for you to start targeting new law offices and drive growth to the business. And because now you're, basically an expert in that industry. All right, so if we break the overall sales process into a handful of steps, the first is identifying those opportunities, which we just covered. And then the next would really be around driving awareness. And so, once you've identified those opportunities, there's a few ways that you can use to drive the awareness. So one is, human touch, right? So getting in front of your clients, whether that's, making a phone call, taking them to lunch, more than likely, these guys, right? So you want to get out in front of them, right? The next one is managed service meetings. So thinking about when you guys are doing, perhaps it's a QBR or a monthly operational review, whatever this cadence of meetings are that you typically already have, pre-scheduled or kind of predefined, basically dates circled on the calendar. That's another opportunity to be able to help drive some of this awareness. The other one is marketing. And so using some type of a targeting marketing plan or a drip campaign, something to continue to nurture this sales effort and really drive awareness. We're going to talk a little bit more about some of the resources we have to help through each of these, but that's a kind of a good overview of the three areas or touch points to help drive the awareness. And then naturally engage and win, right? And so we're going to finish up with that in a minute, with how to win the business. But I look at it as almost a three-phase approach as you look into the sales process. So we're going to help you through each element or each stage of this process. So we do have what we call the partner exchange portal, and so this is where we house all of our sales and marketing content that we've purpose built for our MSP partners. And so we're going to go through a handful of different elements that we've got there. But one place to start, think of it as almost the blueprint. So we've created a playbook to help you basically orchestrate out some of the processes when you think about putting an overall sales campaign or sales process together. So perhaps some of you maybe are not necessarily comfortable with the sales process, or you're new to selling security. Our whole goal is that you don't have to reinvent the wheel, give you, step-by-step ways to help you make sure that one, it's easy, and two, it's executable. So one of the places that a lot of people start is their website, right? So what we found is that creating a landing page to capture and convert leads, that's a great way for our partners to really increase their sales footprint in a really efficient way. So think of your website now as basically another salesperson on staff. So we provide tons of content and copy that you can build out that landing page to capture the interest. And so, by leveraging that website for marketing, it helps you really get that message out. So really for me, the main benefit of adding all this content is it allows you to, one, earn some credibility within your client base, or, folks that aren't your client yet, by adding some of this content, driving visitors to this landing page to capture leads. And now basically what you've built is a connected lead processing engine, and you didn't have to add any headcount. So a great place to really, action orient some of your sales. So the other one is, email and social, right? So that's another area that seems like more and more people are really starting their buying journey in these spaces, right? Especially social media, right? So why not meet them where they are? And to help with this, we've put all kinds of different templates out there, some pre-made social media cards, all that you can leverage in that partner exchange. We also have some really cool stuff like infographics. So if you're going to get into social selling, there's some really cool kind of quick hit stuff out there for you, and all really built to help drive that awareness. And one thing more kind of anecdotal, if you're already running a similar awareness campaign for something else in your security stack, LastPass fits really well with some of those. And so if you're looking more kind of an overall security messaging, you can repurpose some of our elements to be more of that overarching conversation around security too. So something to think about. So if you're going to do perhaps some in-person marketing, right, or if you need some type of maybe a leave behind, one pager, something like that, some type of collateral, we've got tons of content in the partner exchange portal. And so what we've also done, aside from creating the content for you, is we've also given you the ability to co-brand it inside of the portal. So instead of having to take it, then go jump into some type of photo editing software to get your logo on there, rebrand it, all that stuff. We've made it really simple, and so that way you can really hit the ground running by grabbing, whatever piece of collateral you like, getting your logo on there, getting it out the door, and continue to move and grow the business. So something else to think about. So if you are going to be doing some more in-person kind of events, we've built some different PowerPoint presentations along with some really good talking points inside of them. We've also got some good stuff to kind of get people to those events, right? So thinking about emails that kind of lead somebody up to the event and really establish the overall agenda. We've got all that stuff out there for you too. These usually might look like something maybe with the chamber or an industry trade show, something like that. But then also if you're going to do something virtual, like a webinar and stuff, you can use this throughout that as well. And in certain cases too, I mean, we can even offer up a speaker or maybe a technical demo, something like that, to help make sure that you've got all the resources that you need to be successful. And then one final idea to help drive awareness is something called newsjacking. And so if you haven't heard of newsjacking, basically it's the practice of adding, a quick blurb or your 2 cents basically into something that's going on in the news. And so what it does, it helps show your clients that you're staying up on relevant content. It also gives you really good topics to help catch their attention. So maybe a good example of this might be next time that there's a large breach in the out there, and maybe you post something on social media with a couple comments about maybe how how the breach happened, or maybe how it could have been prevented, something like that, something to tie it back to being relevant to your user base. So that's a really good way of trying to still stay relevant and be basically eye-catching without having to involve too much work. And so when you think about it, a couple different kind of best practices here. The one that I like personally is setting up on alert, like through Google Alerts or something like that, with a couple keywords. So maybe it's cybersecurity or maybe it's breaches, something like that. So that way, when something hits the news, you're notified, and then you can take action to decide if you want to put a couple words around or some comments, and then post it out to whether that's if you've got a blog or social media, whatever the case might be. Maybe it's even part of some type of a newsletter that you do within your partner base to help drive some of that awareness. It's a really useful way to help engage clients and potential clients, because you're really showing them that you're, in essence, an expert in the field. So with that, I'm going to hand it back to Len here.
Yeah, I'll grab it, no problem here. So
Okay.
Really nice, Tony. I think what it really shows is you've done a lot of work, you and the team, to come up with discovery questions. Partners know their clients, document it, grab some of that content that was created by our product marketing team, by the LastPass product marketing team, and do some targeted awareness. It's not just a shotgun approach when you're targeting that first tier you talked about, right? I mean, it certainly looks like a great way to get started quickly, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I think the key here is a lot of work was done, so I'll maybe drag you back in for another polling question here, because there is a lot of effort going on in the creation of that content, and hopefully you're using it if you're a partner. If you're not a partner, hopefully you like it, and if you're already using it, let us know. Tell us to keep the content coming. And I think it's also good to know if you don't really like having content made for you. I've certainly heard a couple of different ways, so let us know if you're using it, and to keep it coming. let us know. You just learned about it today. It's be really interesting for us. We have LastPass has a pretty comprehensive onboarding and enablement journey. We not only get you understanding the product, we teach you how to deploy the license internally. You get free licenses to deploy internally. Rich can share more on that. You deploy it internally and you invite your clients out. Set up that integration with your PSAs. Get on out there and invite your clients to use LastPass and deploy that solution and get rolling. I think having these assets is really important to get you started quickly. So maybe a couple more answers. Just let us know if you like the content, if you'll use it. And now that you know it's there, if you're writing your own content, very interesting. We've got 50% who are saying yes, now that they know it, they'll use it. So give me a couple more answers out there, please. Come on back to your terminal, look at the question. We'd love to know if we should be continuing to create this content for you, because a lot of work, a lot of effort. We want to, we think it's valuable. So, all righty. What we'll do is we'll just kind of share the results here. It's very interesting. We've got a bunch that are using it. Keep it coming. Some now know it's available, will use it. And a couple of you will not use it, and that's fine too. And not too much on the no and not sure, because I'm in marketing. So pretty awesome response. I really appreciate that. Let's hide the poll, get back to work here. All right. So thanks, Tony, again. Real great information. And let's kind of move into, now that you've driven this targeted awareness, you know, the bottom line is this is creating that sense of urgency with your client. Not talking about scaring them, but you know, you saw some news items. Maybe you did some news jacking, as Tony suggested. Maybe you just start your conversation, you know, in one of those meetings about what's in the news. You know, was that latest headline preventable? And talking about employees managing their own password being a risk to the business, sharing passwords for shared applications, and the fact that, you know, that SMB is a target as well, similar to large enterprise. And just what the cost of those data breaches have been, very easy to pull some of those numbers out. Who's asked for $1.3 million? Who's asked for 300,000? And, you know, bottom line, it's now a multi-billion-dollar industry. And I will tell you, I've gone to enough events and conferences and heard all the security vendors out there. And I definitely have a little fear in my heart when I see what the actual bad guys do. It is a business. They actually have a managed service business around stealing credentials, compromising data, and making money off of it. So the cost of a data breach could destroy not only your client's business, but yours. So it behooves you to create that sense of urgency that the time to act is now. You can share that LastPass top value proposition. Certainly password reuse. We've got so many stats on there. It should be easy to really talk about them. And here you see 66% of folks in our LastPass Psychology of Password study always or mostly use the same passwords for their accounts. So if you think about it, if one app is compromised, the bad actors now have access to some key data applications, and they not only just care about that individual user or the other employees in the business, they start looking at the families of the folks involved. That's why families as a benefit is so important. Once you get a password, or in trying to get a password, they get a password, they see your email, they start looking at family type communications, and they'll replicate it to get more from you, such as, you know, hey, how do I get into the bank account or something like that in an email? And you'd be surprised how many people answer it. And once those passwords are compromised, that data breach results in credentials of sale on the dark web. And if you're not looking at the dark web for your clients, notifying them what's going on, that's going to be a problem. Over 15 billion stolen logins are circulating on the web, and that's from Digital Shadows Photon Research. And I would imagine it's a little bit more since this study was done. But those data breaches are very costly. And once they're stolen, again, 80% of data breaches that are due to weak or reused passwords give access to work systems. And since most people are working on their home computer now, you can be sure that they're going to be looking at your personal info. Top value proposition, password security, secure password management, and you're the one managing it on behalf of your client base. And then there's that secondary value proposition. Once you're protecting them and they know it, you're going to see that increase in client and user productivity, spending less time on resets, less time calling your service desk. And now they have LastPass across all their devices. So no matter what device they're on, they really don't have to remember the password. They don't have to think of the password. It's just going to be there right for them. And as you start using LastPass, you'll see how easy it is. And more importantly, maybe in that marketing department, maybe some social media accounts, secure password sharing enabled from LastPass. And really, to me, number one thing, reducing user stress, creating and maintaining passwords. And I know, tried a lot of my own personal methods to create and maintain my passwords, but there's nothing like having it done for me, and really saves a lot of time and energy. So I think the key right here is maybe a lot of your clients, maybe users are using free LastPass, and that we see that a lot out there, and folks think it's just fine, but there are limitations to that free version, and they may say it's not a priority right now because they think they're covered, right? But the point is, you got to continue to talk about the risk of bad passwords, because it might not be a priority to put password management in. They think they all got it covered, but the fact of the matter is, it is a priority. It's a priority every day. There are multiple breaches happening, multiple attempts going on every day. And that free version they may be using, whether it's of LastPass or some other password manager that they get at no cost, it's unmanaged. You're not managing it. No one in your client is managing it. And the bottom line is that sensitive information needs to be protected by you. That's your role. And if you don't think it's your role, just ask your client. I'm pretty sure they think you've got everything covered. And this is where you have to keep going back as the landscape changes. Drop in password management, drop in MFA, drop in SSO, drop in managed detection and response, drop in anything and everything that you know will protect your client as you add these solutions into your cybersecurity stack. So overcome those objections, create that sense of urgency, and really go to work. And when you get started with LastPass, LastPass MSP, while it's a pretty easy product to work with, we want to help you out. So a robust enablement journey, we get you going, showing you how to use the product, deploying it internally. But still, when you start rolling it out in your client base, you may need some help. Tony and his team, Rich and his team are there to help you. Your first couple of deals would definitely want to get on, help you close a deal, help reinforce what you learned during your enablement and onboarding journey. Get a hold of your LastPass Strategic Partner Manager. They're going to help you qualify that opportunity. We like to say those initial deals are qualified. We want to help you get rolling, and then maybe you start bringing in some larger deals. We'll help you with some solution consultants, some sales engineers. We'll engage with you and chat with you and help you win that business. Just reach out to your Strategic Partner Manager, and it will definitely help you get rolling. We want you to develop your own muscle memory to move yourself forward. So now you've won the business, you got to execute, right? This is where it could all, really take hold in your client base. They see how you go to work. You got to go out, do a nice deployment. I always like to say deploying LastPass or any solution is a project. I do see a lot of MSPs, IT service providers out there now in this monthly recurrent mindset. They may move away from what I call one-time revenue opportunities like a project. You got to train your users, take hold of that, stay in front of your end users, do a project, deploy LastPass, make it a meaningful effort to show them how important it is to manage passwords, use MFA, how to take advantage of SSO. And then once you're done with that project, go and generate that incremental recurring revenue. You're going to bill your licenses for LastPass, the items that you sold out of the LastPass MSP stack. So here you see a little representation. If you are an MSP, if you're delivering managed services, you probably got a core bundle. You've laid out a price for it. By the way, here at MSP Toolkit, we have a great pricing session. It'll be coming up soon, so stay tuned. We'll talk to you about how to price your managed services. And then here you see how simple it is. Once you've deployed LastPass, you just expand that base package. You need to include password management in your core or essentials bundle. You are the one who defines what solutions your client needs to use in order for you to support them. You shouldn't be letting your client even making the choice. And in fact, recently, probably over the last several days, I heard of some partners that actually will send an email and just kind of say, hey, we are going to include password management in your bundle from this date going forward. Please let us know if you don't want us to do it, and maybe they opt out or maybe they opt in, your choice. But make it really simple, show them how important it is, get that first tier and go, hey, we're putting it on there. And we've actually seen some partners take that first month and actually use it as a trial period for their client base. And if you're on that consumption model, you could certainly deploy some, get folks using it and keep going, or perhaps pull it back. Bottom line, you've got some project revenue in there. If you're managing 500 users, think about an implementation fee times those 500 users. Think about training those 500 users. This is project revenue that really is, I like to say it's pretty important as you roll out projects, get that one-time revenue, and then you roll out incremental recurring revenue, an increase in your bundle, and generate another $11 a month per user, adding 5,500 in MRR if you're managing 500 users as you're getting that LastPass MSP stack out there. And what we've seen is partners are typically charging an hour for implementation fee, perhaps charging an hour for training, and you'll kind of figure out your way, but that's a little bit of a guideline that we've seen out there. So some next steps for you as we kind of wrap up the webinar and we get to some Q&A here. Just want to really highlight that the LastPass MSP Partner Program provides you next level benefits. You got guys like Tony who know this business, guys like Rich, Joe Kidda, they know this business and can help you in terms of pre-sale support, guidance on how to use the program. You get free internal use licenses that you can use in your business at no cost. We've got those go-to-market playbooks, sales and marketing toolkits Tony shared, a ton of those brandable assets and nurture campaigns and other go-to-market assets. And of course, working with your partner manager, we'll bring in some pre-sales engineers, subject matter experts to help you win those big deals and those early deals. And for those that are committed, we do have one-on-one enablement. We have group enablement sessions as well. And that partner support portal, Tony mentioned Partner Exchange, where you can open manage support tickets. So as a LastPass MSP partner, you do have access to a lot of next level benefits to keep you going. So as we wrap up the webinar, we're going to move into some Q&A, and Rich is going to lead us. But I do have one final polling question, simply because we want to know, do you want to speak to someone here at LastPass? Poll 4, our last question. Would you like someone to contact you regarding the LastPass MSP Partner Program? Now, we know your partners out there, but maybe you want to talk to your strategic partner manager for whatever reason. Maybe you've been busy and you haven't been in connection. Maybe this webinar makes you think of a few things. Perhaps you want to get started with LastPass, and I know we've got a few folks on here that are looking to learn more. So hopefully today we've shared a little bit about LastPass MSP and the identity and access management solution stack that you can go out and deploy to your clients to protect their assets and their data. And we've got a bunch of folks already a partner, and we've only got 30% voted. I'm going to take maybe another minute. I don't know if maybe Tony, Rich, you want to share anything about the program while we wait for a few folks to kind of respond here. We've got 54%. We're going to get into our next steps, but looks like Rich, is that you out there breathing?
Yeah. Sorry, I didn't know if you could hear me or not. My wife's you gotta love being the remote workforce. My wife's on the phone as well upstairs. But yeah, I mean, if you guys want, you can, I believe my email address is coming up here in a couple slides or not, but my team is really designed and built to, take care of you MSPs. That's what they're tuned to do. And please reach out to me directly. There's an email address that'll be popping up here. so I can get you guys in the right hands. So, but no, I mean, it's, everyone knows they need to do something about password management. It's just how you go about doing it. How do we figure out, the best avenue to do that? That's what my team's really designed to do. So.
Yep. Well, that's great, Rich. I think hearing from you is real important. I think what I've seen at the LastPass team is everyone is vested in the success of partners, and you have to be. And you guys are true veterans who can help MSPs grow their business. So let's leave you with some next step actions. We shared a little bit about the identity and access management market opportunity and how to use news coverage in your efforts. We want you to be prepared. And as you prepare yourself, now you get ready to start looking at opportunities in your client base. Take a look at those discovery questions Tony shared. We are going to share the PowerPoint. So you are going to see what they are and be able to kind of frame your questions. And then once you kind of know, maybe you've had a breach in your base, maybe someone close to you had a breach, and you can kind of share that in your awareness email. Maybe you can take some of the content we've created and customize it based on what you found out. But the key is, don't ask your clients what they're doing for password management, right? You know that. You should know what they're doing. And if you don't, maybe you need to use a SaaS monitoring app where you can go out and see, are they using free LastPass? Maybe you have to do a little more discovery using some of your tools, but ultimately drive awareness. If you know they're using free LastPass, for example, send an email saying, I know you're using free LastPass. Let's talk. And then engage, right? That's where you kind of take that targeted awareness that you just drove, pick up the phone, go have your monthly operational reviews. If you notice the acronym, I've been using monthly operational reviews for a long time, acronym MOR, monthly operational review. I like to call them more meetings. That's where you're going to kind of go in, share what's going on with your client out there in the world, try to get some more business. I mean, you want to tell them how you're doing, how you did last month, what you're doing next month, but you also want to use it as an opportunity to get some more work. So engage your clients, win the business, and then make sure you're kind of in tune with how to execute properly. Reach out to the LastPass team where you need some help. But the bottom line, this is where you shine. Deploy the solution, train your clients, show them how to use it, and then go continue to expand inside your client base. So with that, we're going to kind of open up here and see if we've got some questions. And Rich and Tony, if you want to come on video as we wrap up, you see Rich's email there, rich@goto.com. There's a free 14-day trial if you want to get a hold of it, if you're someone interested in joining the LastPass program. And you see we've got Tony and Rich joining us here. So guys, Rich, I guess our moderator, we have any questions out there you want to answer?
I mean, again, most of the questions I answered, like how do I get in touch with you? Who's my partner manager? How do I get rolling? How do I get IE wells? Those types of things that I've answered, privately to most of the people. One that just came in is really, is the Pax8 relationship, and yeah, I mean, it's wherever you want. I mean, we have integrations, both with Pax8, and you go directly with us, directly through them. It's completely up to you as the MSP where you want to go ahead and get the product from. But those are really about most of the questions, more or less just how do I get in touch with you? How do I get in touch with the team? Some pricing questions that are in there as well that, we will absolutely answer, in a conversation. So.
Yeah, maybe we can get a question out there into the audience, right? Anyone out there? I mean, we got a bunch of folks out there. Has anyone had success with identity and access management, and maybe give the single most successful talk track you've had, if it's not too much to type? But I'd even like to, I wonder if I could actually unmute any of these folks here, Rich, right? Can we? I guess we can't. They're only in listen only mode. So we will, I guess, Rich, there was
yeah, Dave Rasmussen just asked, we'll be sharing a link to the marketing assets in the portal. And Dave, there is access. You should have access if you're in the MSP programs to the partner exchange. If you're not, we can get you obviously access into it, but you should have it if you're a MSP partner with us, access to that partner exchange that Tony did show and highlight earlier.
Yeah, so Rich, maybe what we'll do is we'll include a link to that partner exchange in the email, and if you're
and you know what I just noticed, my email address at the bottom spelled wrong. It's rich.getch@goto.com. It just says Rich. So it's rich.getch, GETCH, @goto.com. There you go.
Isn't it great how we can edit on the fly, guys? We are.
Yep.
So, all right, good. Well, we're almost at the top of the hour, so let's. We've got the questions going, and hey, I always like to congratulate folks for attending. We know you're all busy out there. I know there's a lot of graduations going on. There's a couple of conferences out there, and we just appreciate you jumping in and listening in. Tony, any parting words?
No, I mean, I think that, kind of what everybody said. I mean, this is a tremendous opportunity right now in the marketplace. There's a lot of things that are all kind of moving in this direction. So, certainly if we can help and obviously help make it easier, then that's certainly what we want to do. We want to definitely be more of a partnership kind of mode and help you grow the business.
Awesome. Rich?
Yeah, no, I mean, I think it's really partnering up with my team. I mean, again, my team's got probably 50, 60 years total combined in the MSP space, and we are the experts in this. Let us show you how to do this. It's not easy going out there. I mean, we're all busy. I mean, it's simple as things I hear all day in and day out is, I'm busy trying to run an MSP. I'm trying to hire people. I'm trying to retain people and finding the right talent. I think Tony mentioned it earlier is knowing what good looks like. And really, when you look at a password manager and the way LastPass kind of designed it with the multi-tenant platform, it's a product that is sticky. Once the partners get it, they love it. I think one of the guys I was talking to earlier in the chat, Vic, said, hey, I love the product. And most of the people that we talk to are LastPass users, and they do love it. And it's a matter of getting them into, the portal to see what it can do and how it can help you, maintain some good relationships with your end clients. Hand you the password reset, boom, it's done. You don't have to worry about it. But yeah, let my team, assist you in that journey.
Yeah, I think that's great. I think, the support you provide partners is really second to none, Rich and Tony. So I'm sure. I mean, one thing, just sort of last question pop in there, and, how successful have webinars been? And all I can share with you guys is, vendors are doing webinars to you all the time. And I'm always surprised how partners are not doing webinars with their client base. And you should be talking to your clients in multiple formats. Go up on social media, make your client group, generate conversation. And, webinars work great. You're going to get whoever comes on wants to listen in. I mean, look at the webinar we had today. We've done a couple of webinars with the LastPass team, and good turnouts, lots of interest, and that's how you generate leads. Tony talked about a connected lead processing engine. Get the web going, get your social media going, get your webinar going. People want to get out. Our industry is getting back out on the road. Everybody talks about how great it is. Get your clients to come do a lunch and learn in your office, right? Go out to a restaurant. We call them handshake events. Drag them into a restaurant and buy a lunch and do a 15-minute presentation, not only on your business, but, kind of focus on something you want to do, like drop in password management, MFA, and SSO. So webinars work. They always will. And, Tony, I don't know, have you actually done any webinars with, I know we did one webinar in particular with a medical, with a healthcare focused MSP. I know we did one there. I know there's been a couple.
So no, we have, and I'll just offer that up, that, we're willing to help. So not only creating that content that you could do yourself, but then also if you need help, because it's not just the webinar, right? It's all the stuff that leads up to the webinar. It's, did you get the invites out? Did you get some kind of compelling messaging to make folks even want to join? So all the things that lead up to the actual event itself, we can help you kind of talk through all of that, just because, kind of to your point, Lynn, like we do it on a regular basis out to MSPs. It's the same concept out to end clients. We can help you kind of figure out that framework.
Yep. And actually we have training material as well. You can either try to generate revenue, training your clients, do a group session, go on site, do a webinar, do a training session, or send them to free end user LastPass training if that's what you want to do and you don't want to be bothered with it. But I love training clients when I have my MSP, and it's a great way to generate revenue, connect with your clients, have your users know who you are, and that's real important so they don't start, reaching out to whoever they know when they have an issue. So with that, guys, we'll end the webinar. Appreciate everyone jumping in. And again, you got my email. Connect with me on LinkedIn. Tony, Rich, everybody, we're all out there, always sharing some good stuff. So connect with us wherever you can. Maybe before you forget, there's going to be a survey coming out. Please answer the survey. Appreciate it. And have a great day, everybody.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, guys.